good evening. My name is Tony, and I am an addict.
Hi, Tony!
And it's good to come up here to Albany and celebrate the new year with you folks, because I get a real nice feeling up here. I'm talking about looking into 1992 with optimism. I'm talking about being clean. I'm talking about making it. I'm talking about having some of the things come through for you in your lives just as well as my own and everybody else involved. I am one of your fans, one of your ardent admirers. I admire when you could stay clean a day at a time, no matter what happens. I'm talking about ups and downs. You know, I thought if I could only, all my life, I thought if I could only stop using, everything would be great. And I would dream of the day that I could stop using. I'd be in jail, and I'd be looking through the bars, and I'd be telling myself if I could only stop using, I could go out there, and I could be in love, and I could have a nice this, and I can do that, and wear nice clothes, and keep a nice job, and all of this wonderful stuff. And I could never stop. And I said, dream of the day that I would be able to walk the streets without being routed. And I've been in all kind of institutions designed to rehabilitate addicts. You know, from Synanon to Methadone to acupuncture to the Baptist ministry, you name it. I was there in the solarium. I was in the solarium. Just seeing a stripe there, folks. Walking around smoking a Pell-Mell. Telling myself when I get out it's going to be different. When I get out I'm going to be able to go out on a date and be able to make it. When I get out I'm going to be able to be okay. It never happened. And I got busted when I was 16 and I went into Bronx County and I looked on the wall and there was a sign up that said 9 out of 10 come back again. And I knew I would keep coming back. Because I knew then that I couldn't stop using it. And all the therapy, it was all great. And people had their hearts in the right place. But it didn't apply to me, you see. Because I went out there and I was down for so long, didn't know what up was. And I'm talking about a long time coming, you see. And I'm talking about believing. And if you don't believe that I believe. Because I devoted a lifetime to the research of it. You told me I could get high on it, I would do it. You know, it's an escape artist. Talk about Houdini. You see, when things got rough, I got high. When things were smooth, I got high. And that was my whole life. Getting high, talking the talk. Can you dig it? Catch me if you can. I know you know what I'm talking about. And I walked into Narcotics Anonymous and I read we admitted we were powerless over our addiction and our lives had become unmanageable, and that was being extremely kind. To what was going on with me. I'm not talking about old Lang Syne. I was talking about right there. I was desperate, broken, busted, and disgusted. And telling myself, man, I could never stop using. And telling myself I was older. And telling myself I would walk in and I don't know what they do in there. You see, they were reading out of a white book. Like this. And I said, what is this all about? I don't see no nurse's station. I don't see anything. I don't see no medication. What are they doing? Some guy in there told me, you know something, I'll tell you something. If you don't pick it up, you won't get stoned. So basically fundamental and incredibly simple. For my complicated mind. To grasp. Wow. Revelation. Where have I been? Elementary, Dr. Watson. Oh, you mean if I don't pick it up, I won't get stoned? Wow! Run that by me again, will ya? I've been psychoanalyzed by the best. I've never heard nothing like that. never that bit of profundity that I could grasp. I must have been perplexed by the profundities of the universe. And I walked in and I stopped shooting dope and coke. And I stopped smoking reefers. And I stopped drinking whiskey. And I stopped taking pills. And I stopped doing acid. And I stopped doing mushrooms. And anything that was out there. You see? Because I ate mushrooms in New Orleans, and I took acid in San Francisco, and I shot dope in Salt Lake City, and I did all that all over the country. And I remember sitting down there up in the summer of love in San Francisco, and in a moment of desperation, there I was high on acid, Ardsley and Sandoz, me being a bona fide dope fiend, you know, bordering on the lunatic fringe. And somebody said, take one of these. Get out of yourself. And I said, okay, let me have a couple. I'll go for it. And here I was off to the races, thinking I was D'Artagnan. And you couldn't tell me I wasn't. You see? There I was with a can of psychedelic paint in one of them digger pads, spraying the roaches, watching them walk up the wall. Far out! I've done that. Dreaming of being in love, by the way. Dreaming of having a place. Dreaming of making it. All my life I was never able to make it. Until I walked into Narcotics Anonymous, and lo and behold, I stopped using. And that was what it was all about for me. It wasn't about coming in and going on to become a brain surgeon. It was about being so desperate and down and out that I would have tried anything, and teachable and open to listen. And I came to believe. And I built up a confidence in relationship to my addiction. And I'm not afraid today of being a dope fiend. See, then I was. Oh, no, I get out. When I get out, I was afraid of getting out because I knew I was going to come back. I was always afraid of coming back with more time. You see? And I had some lunatics that used to influence me and tell me things. You know? Things like, hit first, hit hard. Do unto others before they do unto you. You see? And my friends were right on, bona fide gangsters, and none of them are around today. And none of them used, by the way. See, they're gone. And they had an influence on me, and I grew up like that. I was conditioned like that. There was no hope. See? If I was out there, I was high. There was no tranquility. There was no peace of mind. And I'm talking about winning, and I know a lot of people, their lives have not been fulfilled in recovery. But I say this, you come to a point where you reach a happy medium, and no matter what happens in your life, you feel okay. You're able to make it. I'm talking about dealing with life on life's terms. I'm talking about the third step. I ain't talking no shit. I remember I could never say my piece. I felt unworthy. And nobody would listen. And if you came up to me, my conversation was boring. It had to do with stealing. It had to do with copying. It had to do with stealing. It had to do with copying. If you asked me about the existentialist view, I didn't even know what you were talking about. I might have been on the moon, for all I knew. See? I was a social midget. I consider myself that because I was never being able to interact socially. I remember getting busted one time, beat up and busted, around the holidays. And my friend said, well, I said, what? I said, wow, gee, that guy got arraigned. But a scrunky time. He said, what do you want to do? I said, we're in jail now, locked up. I said, gee, I'd like to go out on a date. Did you want to go out on a date? Ain't we lucky we're going to spend the winter in the penitentiary, Tony? We'll come out in the springtime. Ain't that wonderful? Zippity-doo-dah! That's how it was. A day in the life of Curtis Wheeler, or whatever his name was. That's how it was. I'll tell you how it is now. I'll tell you how it is on New Year's Eve. I'll tell you what I got I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to maintaining the space that I'm in tonight. And I don't have everything I want, and all kind of things have happened in recovery. I'm looking forward to a new year of making it. I'm looking forward to staying clean. You don't have to tell me about all the exotic drugs out there. There's no glamour to me. There's no glamour. No meaning. You see, because I spent a lifetime out there exercising, researching. I remember a head nurse to one time told me, hey, she took a liking to me. She said, here, smoke one of these spearmint leaf sticks. I said, really? Yeah. The newest range, Tony. Kidding. You smoke one and you look into the future. Oh, fucking out. I said, what is it? She said, rhinoceros tranquilizer. Wow! What will I think of next? Smoked the shit and said, oh, God, a nightmare. On Elm Street, I thought Freddy Krueger was chasing me. You told me I could get high on it, I would do it. Trying to bring out the type of person that I was. You see? And all I wanted to do was be okay. All I wanted to do was go to a New Year's Eve party. I could never do that. I was out there on the corner waiting for a guy in a checkered jacket. And it looked like everybody had a checkered jacket on. And sure enough, he showed, and I said, my favorite time. We went in his house, and he said, look, hey, man, don't do it all, you know. I said, oh, shut up. You just throw it in. I banged it up, and almost got a coronary thrombosis, and he had 8 locks on his door. It took me 45 minutes to get out. I took the stick off and opened this up, and man, I was out there. Oh, I could breathe. Let me go in and do it again. Yeah. Happy New Year. Kill me. You see? That was the attitude. And it brought nothing but despair, humiliation, degradation. It wasn't even about getting high anymore. It was about being a thing. And they asked me in Synanon one time when I was 20 years old, out on the West Coast, what do you think of when you think about yourself? The audacity to ask me that question. At that time, the way I was feeling, like some crawling thing. I'm talking about no self-esteem. I'm talking about being down. I'm talking about never having. I'm talking about never being able to experience. I'm talking about not being there for your folks. I'm talking about raunchy. I'm talking about walking the streets. The other side of the spectrum, I'm clean 10 years. I'm proud of it. 10 years brought me, I don't want no applause. 10 years brought me something. 10 years brought me the ability to deal. And the only righteous thing I've ever accomplished in my life was to be consistent enough and persistent enough to chase recovery. By God, it's paid off. I'll tell you what, by the grace of God, I'm here tonight, and I could tell you folks that no matter what trials and tribulations you're going through, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you will come out and there will be a feeling that you will acquire and a capability for you to go on and make it a day at a time, no matter what. I'm talking about being free. Yeah. Freedom is special to people like us. Because I was out there free and enslaved. I'm talking about looking forward to a new year. And it doesn't matter what happened last week. And it doesn't matter how you felt about yourself. And it doesn't matter what you did in your past. The only thing that matters is that we're here tonight. And by the looks of the group, we're making it. And that's all I wanted to do, was make it. And I never had the concept of making it a day at a time till I walked into Narcotics Anonymous, and it began to dawn on me that I, too, can indulge in some very, very enriched life. And all my life, I was always dreaming. I'd be there daydreaming. Oh, when I get out, I am going to free the damsel in distress. She'll be tied to the train track, you see, and I'll fly out of the clouds and say, here I come to save the day. See? And untie the ropes and off I would be gone. Walking off into the sunset. Tra-la-la. Dig it? It never happened, man. I'll remember situations. I remember in the abyss of my desperation and loneliness. I wandered out one night, and I put on this jive tweed jacket, and I didn't look so bad. You couldn't tell by the looks of me how really desperate I was. I was thinking of suicide, you see, because things were so bad, and I wandered into the singles dance. And I'm over there and I meet this woman. I'm desperately lonely. For months I was on the lam. I was hiding, sleeping with a gun. And friends of mine say, what a beautiful gun. And I say, it's so ugly, I hate sleeping with a gun, but they're going to come in and kill me. And I'm afraid, racing fear. And I meet this gal. And I say, would you think me impertinent if I asked you out to dinner in the movie? She said, yes, so that next Saturday I'm looking forward to going. I'm saying, wow, I'm going. Well, I got a date. Crazy. It's what I want to do. But I'm hooked like a dog, and I'm stealing heavy, and I'm dirty all the time, you dig? And I got a piece, and I got jewelry, and I got shit from all kind of robberies, but I don't know how it feels to go out there and really indulge with what everybody's doing. I'm being honest. And I go and pick her up, but before I went to pick her up, I shot 2 speedballs and drank about 15 gin fizzes, and as I was leaving the pad, my nephew said, here, Uncle Tony, here's a couple of red barrels. Don't put them under your teeth, because they'll rot the enamel in your teeth. Put them under your tongue. Bang! Off I go, man. I drive up and ring the bell. Smoke a few J's on the way. Dig, ring the bell, got a table at Lucky Lil's. Harbor View, table for 2, candlelight. I thought myself at the time a candelabra dude. You see. Was that self-deception working overtime on my giant brain? She comes out in the shawl looking lovely like a flower. On my heart's palpitating. I'm saying, oh, wow, love. We breeze into the Lucky Lil's table with a harbor view. At that time, everything is hitting me all at once. I'm going up, I'm going down, I'm going around. Shit's happening. They're playing Mozart. I think it's Marvin Gaye. Don't know what the fuck's happening. Sit down, order. Almost drowned in the minestrone soup. Got it all over that jive tweed jacket I was wearing. She says, look at you. You're disgusting. I'm leaving. I said, I know. I can face it. It's rejection. I'm used to the feeling. She gets up and breezes out. I breeze downtown to the cop man going. He said, what happened? What are you? You got minestrone soup all over your jacket. date. That was a fucking date. I'm talking about being in your right mind. I was afraid of the woman and didn't know what I was afraid of. I was afraid of standing up and didn't even know what was happening. I was afraid and didn't even know what my fears were. I'm talking about learning about yourself. You got yourself be true. I'm talking about what happens in Narcotics Anonymous. I'm talking about what happens when you look at the third step and somebody's calling you a jive motherfucker and you say to yourself, I ain't got no control over what this person's going to say. And instead of coming out of the side of your mouth, you understand it. And by practicing this understanding, you're able to deal. I'm talking about winning big. All my life, I was a cold-blooded loser, and I know you know what I'm talking about. I went up to a detox, and the people were beaten up by their disease. They were on IVs, and they had all kind of stuff going on. Terrible stuff. Open heart surgery and all that. And I walked up to them, and I started rapping, and I said, tell you what I'm going to do. I got a new news for everybody. It can happen for you. You too can make it. They said, what are you trying to do, sell the program? I said, yes. A couple of these people are in the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm talking about it works. I'm talking about making it. I'm talking about winning. I'm talking about having. I'm talking about feeling. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about bring out the old and bring in the new. Take out the old and bring in the new. I'm talking about not being afraid. I'm talking about rising above. And I can't be more grateful enough than I am tonight at what happened to me with the turn of events. Even though some of them were bad, I'm interested in what's going to happen. I'm interested in what's going to come down the road, you see. I want to be there when it happens. I don't want to be out there ossified. You see? Because I learned in Narcotics Anonymous that I can live my life without using drugs. That I had to go further than that. How does a guy like me affect the change? Me, who's been diagnosed as hopeless and incorrigible. Can't be taught, unemployable, all this crazy stuff. I believed it. At the time, I went to a psychiatrist and I told him, oh my God, I had a terrible day, Doc. I said, what happened? I said, I robbed 3 apartments and I only got $13. Awful. I ran down to Fox Street, I copped a couple of bags, I threw them in the cooker, and you could plaster the ceiling with it, turned it into plaster of Paris. Was I depressed? He told me, dude, I think you're a mental case. How dare you call me a mental case? He said, oh yeah, where's your shoes? The shoes in the glove compartment of somebody else's car, this is true. I left there with no hope. I left that place with no hope. I walked out with no hope, never be able to stop. By the grace of God, I found Narcotics Anonymous, and I walked into a meeting, and a couple of guys were there, and they looked beat up, but they were happy. I mean it. They had slouch hats on, they were reading out of a white book, and they had a little board with NA on it. Didn't know anything what was going on. But by the grace of God, I was able to walk in on that. You see? And by virtue of the fact that I walked in on that, my life changed. And me, a hopeless drug addict, stopped using drugs. Stopped drinking and smoking reefers. Stopped taking psychedelics, because I also, by the way of being a dope fiend or a junkie, if you will, I was also a psychedelic ranger. I might add that too, you see. So the whole spectrum was covered. Okay? And I don't know what they're doing out there today, whether they're flying a kite or chasing a dragon or doing all that stuff. I don't know about that. To me, at the time, a simple speedball would suffice. And I walked into Narcotics Anonymous, and I got to the point where I got a confidence about my addiction, and I was able to live a day at a time without using drugs, up to today. You see? New Year's Eve. So I say, you know, bring out the old and bring in the new. You know? Here we are, we're all safe, none of us are out there. You know, walking around looking for a guy in a checkered jacket You know, with the stuff. You know, or when you know the bells start ringing, everybody starts saying, "Oh, woe is me." That's the story I told. The story, woe is me. The story of the loser. Well, what happened? I lost this. And I lost my wife, and I lost my daughter, and I lost my apartment, and I lost my robe, and I lost my van, and I lost my stamp collection, and I lost the key to my house, and I forgot where I lived, and I lost all this thing, and woe is me. And when my plane came in, I was at the pier. And my train came in, I was at the airport. Oh, wow. Wrong place at the wrong time, wrong place at the wrong time. If I only could do this, if I only could do that, if this happened, if that happened. And the police always got in the way of my stealing. Somehow they were always there. Now I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about being there at the right time. I'm talking about walking in on it. I'm talking about grasping what it is. I'm talking about having an open mind and being willing to accept it. I'm talking about being teachable. I'm talking about later for our petty rivalries. We got a saying back in the city. I come from New York City. Oh, we're not knocking everybody in the air like we used to. Because you never know who's going to be here tomorrow. I'm talking about a lot of my friends afflicted with the virus, a disease that's attributed to addiction. Direct. I'm talking about the dignity that they're celebrating tonight, the dignity that they're showing other people. I'm talking about a profile in courage. I'm talking about a message that you can't get anywhere else. When you see somebody that don't have tomorrow, that ain't using. You see? I'm talking about telling ourselves how lucky we are. I'm talking about looking and seeing what we have and telling ourselves it's okay. And not looking at what we don't have and telling ourselves, well, why don't I have this? You see, I'm talking about looking at things and I can attest to the fact it works personally because right now in my life, it's happening for me. I'm not looking through the bar saying, oh, wow, look at that guy, he's making it, look at them, they're doing it. It's happening for me. I feel good tonight. I love the space I'm in. And it's a fucked up space. So I must be crazy. So I attribute it to Narcotics Anonymous. Where I'm at today, feeling-wise. Okay today. And I got to say this. It's always a privilege to come up here and address a group of your caliber. It's always a privilege to come up here and look at and talk to people that you respect for what they're doing, day at a time. Okay? And that's what I bring away with me, much more than they come with most of the time. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about being one of your fans. I'm talking about if you make it, tells me I can make it no matter how much time you got. I'm talking about feeling good. I'm talking about Happy New Year. I'm talking about being in love. I'm talking about making it. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about our dreams coming true sometimes. You see? I'm talking about don't be too, don't expect too much and then you won't be too disappointed. I'm talking about keep it simple. You see? And I'm talking from my own personal experience because I've experienced this in my life and I could tell you that it happens. And it doesn't even have to be chronological age. It could just be recovery-wise. But being older, I feel like I was around a little longer. So I could tell somebody, young people, a little bit about life. A little bit about what happened to me. And it don't have to take you 20 years to get the message of recovery. And you don't have to run your life ragged before you finally beat yourself to a frazzle and come into the fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm talking about I know where the clean people stay in the country, in the world. I've been to Europe because of Narcotics Anonymous. Met a friend of mine in Bogota, Colombia. He's clean 5 years tonight, and you know what? They got 25 meetings in Bogota, Colombia. I'm talking about out of sight. I'm talking about the Japanese people come over. Instead of hugging, they go, "We're so grateful." We're so grateful. Because in that country, they look down at drug addicts so terribly. Disgrace, family, all that. Okay? So I'm talking about the whole spectrum. I'm talking about the steps, the fourth step, the fifth step. You know, you can do a fifth step. I know a lot of people that do the fifth step and then they stop. I'm talking about some people that become lax in their maintenance and their vigilance in recovery. I'm talking about some people that relapse. I'm talking about what constitutes a relapse. You know, we were sitting in a room one time, we were talking about the implementation of the principles in our daily lives. And what are the principles? And none of us knew back in the Bronx in the beginning. Because what are the principles? We started learning about being honest and surrendering, about having faith and hope, about being able to trust somebody with your lifetime secrets, about the courage to tell another human being, about the willingness to have the character defects to be removed, about the humility to ask God to remove the character defects, about the perseverance to go on and make a list, about the restitution that you have to make to feel good about yourself, okay? About the discipline in the 10th step where you have to write it again and when you're wrong, promptly admit it, about the spirituality in the 11th, about the service and brotherly love in the 12th, to give it away freely, what was given to us. About unity, you know, people say talk about 13 step. To me, the 13th step is the 12th. It's the first tradition, and the principle involved is unity. And it's about our personal recovery depends on NA unity. And I'm talking about integrity in the 2nd step, about our leaders, the trusted servants. You see, and I'm talking about equality in the 3rd tradition when people talk about the only membership, the only requirement is a desire to stop using. So now we know the principles. So when you know the principles, it's like identifying your fears and being able to confront them. Somebody said, courage is a state of mind to confront your fears, enable you to confront your fears. But first we have to identify what we're afraid of. You know, back in the Bronx, my friend, the gangster, used to tell me, Tony, for God's sake, before you start running, make sure you're being chased. He was right, because I'd be running off and didn't even know what was going on, didn't even know what my fears were. All I knew was fear. Didn't know what they were. And I'm talking about all this unfolding in the recovery process and the process we do when we work the steps with a sponsor that would guide us through and tell us about the principles and get us to the point where we could stand there and look at a person that's knocking us and not react. I'm talking about working it. And then as you practice that, you establish a balance, not black or white, but gray, and a feeling of well-being most of the time. That you can deal with what's happening around you. And we live in a crazy world. It seems like everybody's using, but they're really not. You see? And I'm talking about what develops in the recovery process. And I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to come down here tonight and convey my experience, strength, and hope to you. You see? Because what you see is what you get. What you see is what it is, man. I haven't got none of these dark secrets. You know, few assorted perversions that I'd rather not speak of. But I know you know what I'm talking about, too. Other than that, I just want to say this. It's been nice coming down here. I know you want to dance. And I want to say that I love you and I'm your fan. And I want you to make it because I know if you make it, I can make it too. And Happy New Year.
My name is Dino. I'm an addict. And before we close the meeting, I just want to share something. I know Tony on a personal level. And Tony does major conventions he spoke at. He does functions like this. But when I needed a speaker to help me open this abandoned building we had in Philadelphia, in Kensington, which is really a combat zone, that first Tuesday in September, and I called on Tony 2 hours away. I said, hey, why don't you come on down and let's open this building together. And there was no glamour in it, you know, there was no ego, you know what I mean? Just a bunch of halfway house guys, people that were still using. There was no tiles on the thing, you know, the floor was torn up. And it was Tony that came down, you know what I mean? And that's how we recover, you know, and I just love him, man. And we got a nice way of closing. All right. This is going to be interesting, this circle. This is going to be interesting.